On the night of December 24th, 1978, in the shadowy heart of the Silver Ridge Mountains, an ominous tale began to unfold in Havenwood. A story so chilling it would forever mar the peace of this secluded mountain town and turn Christmas joy into a haunting legend. Marilyn Westwood, a 38-year-old widow, had recently uprooted her life, seeking refuge from a past riddled with heartbreak and loss. Havenwood's Crestwood Lodge promised a fresh start, a place to rebuild, heal, and create memories with her 4 children. But what awaited them in Cabin 12 was far from the sanctuary they envisioned. Instead, the wooden cabin would become the epicenter of a nightmare so profound it would haunt generations. The mountains, with their snow-capped peaks and towering evergreens, seemed to Marilyn like a protective embrace. After years of struggle, losing her husband in a tragic accident, grappling with financial instability, and enduring the judgmental whispers of her small-town neighbors, she decided to leave Kansas behind and move to Havenwood. Marilyn was no stranger to hardship. Growing up in a modest home during the 1940s, she learned resilience early. Her childhood was a series of compromises, sacrificing toys for essentials, meals for survival. These struggles forged her into a fiercely independent woman who could endure almost anything. In Havenwood, she saw an opportunity. The remote Crestwood Lodge, though far from luxurious, offered an affordable place to settle her family. Cabin 12, tucked deep in the forest, was rustic but cozy. It wasn't perfect, but it was enough. To Marilyn, it represented possibility, a place to breathe and rebuild. Her children were the light of her life. Brandon, 17, carried the weight of the eldest child with quiet strength. Lila, 14, was artistic and introspective, often retreating into her sketchbook to create a world of her own. The twins, Dylan and Ellie, 11, were inseparable, their boundless energy and laughter the glue that held the family together. Havenwood was a small town where everyone knew each other, or at least thought they did. The locals were polite but reserved, wary of outsiders. Crestwood Lodge, once a thriving retreat for skiers and nature lovers, had fallen into disrepair. Fewer visitors came, leaving the cabins mostly abandoned, their windows dark and their walls echoing with the ghosts of past guests. Marilyn noticed the unease in the townsfolk when she mentioned Cabin 12. Conversations would abruptly shift, and friendly smiles would falter. At first, she dismissed it as small-town superstition, a tendency to weave ghost stories about isolated places. But as Christmas approached, she couldn't shake the feeling that something was watching, waiting. Inside Cabin 12, the Westwood family prepared for a modest celebration. Marilyn had scraped together enough to buy small gifts for the children: a new sketchbook for Lila, a pocket knife for Brandon, and toys for the twins. They shared a simple dinner, laughing as they exchanged stories of Christmases past. Outside, the snow fell in heavy silence. The mountains, usually alive with the sounds of winter wildlife, were eerily still. Then came the first sound, a soft knock at the door. Marilyn froze, her smile faltering. Who could be out in this weather? Brandon volunteered to check, but when he opened the door, there was no one there, just the wind howling through the trees. As the night deepened, the atmosphere inside the cabin grew tense. Shadows seemed to stretch longer, darker. The twins huddled together under a blanket, while Lila stared out the window, her sketchbook forgotten. Marilyn tried to dismiss her growing unease, but her instincts screamed that something was wrong. At midnight, it happened. A figure emerged from the forest, moving with calculated silence. The intruder entered Cabin 12, their presence unnoticed until it was too late. What followed was a scene of unimaginable terror. The Westwoods, once bound by love, were now trapped in a brutal nightmare. By dawn, the peaceful image of Cabin 12 was shattered. Marilyn, Brandon, and Lila were found lifeless, their bodies bearing the marks of a calculated attack. Dylan and Ellie were missing, their beds empty but undisturbed. Inside the cabin, chaos reigned. Broken furniture, bloodstains, and eerie signs of struggle. The townsfolk were horrified. Havenwood, a place of winter serenity, was now the setting of a gruesome mystery. The sheriff's department launched an investigation, but the clues were scarce. Multiple weapons were used, suggesting more than one attacker. Yet, there were no clear footprints in the snow, no witnesses, no motive. The case quickly became a labyrinth of confusion. Evidence seemed to vanish. Reports misplaced, photographs blurred, statements retracted. Rumors swirled about corruption within the sheriff's office, about ties to unsavory figures who operated in the shadows of Havenwood. Some locals whispered that the attack was no random act of violence, but a targeted killing. Others spoke of the Watcher, a figure from local legend said to stalk the forests around Crestwood Lodge. But as weeks turned to months, the trail grew cold, and the town's unease deepened. Years passed, but the memory of the Westwood family lingered. Cabin 12, now abandoned, became a place of whispered stories and dared trespasses. Some claimed to hear laughter echoing from its empty walls. Others swore they saw shadows moving within. Dylan and Ellie were never found. Their absence left a void that no explanation could fill. Were they taken? Did they escape? The questions haunted Havenwood, weaving their disappearance into the fabric of the town's identity. In the silence of the Silver Ridge Mountains, some stories refused to end. The Westwood murders were more than a crime. They were a fracture in the soul of Havenwood, a wound that time could not heal. Decades later, Cabin 12 still stands, its walls holding secrets too dark to reveal. The snow continues to fall, covering the scars of that fateful night, but the shadows remain. And somewhere out there, the truth waits, silent, patient, and deadly.